Alright, this picture behind me is something we have all gone through. This is called a mosquito bite. Now, isn't it irritating that you have to scratch it a few times and once you know it just gets bigger and bigger? Alright, so this only happens to us a few times, once every year. But something so similar, but yet so serious, is related to this woman. This beautiful, young, 25-year-old woman was diagnosed with a chronic skin disease named leprosy. Leprosy has haunted mankind since 600 BC. Hello, my name is Brian Lozano, and today I'll be explaining to you about the history of leprosy from the start to end. Now, this is a quick overview of what I'll be going over with you. I'll be talking about leprosy in general during the past time, which also considered biblical times. During the 19th century, 20th century, and the present time, I'm going to be giving you guys some stats and the current experiment done in 2011. Now, before I start my presentation, I want you all to look at these pictures. These pictures symbolize the history of leprosy, and each one of these pictures plays a huge role in the history of leprosy. And this is what I'll be going over with all of you today. Now, leprosy in general is a well-known chronic and infectious disease that affects the cooler parts of the body, such as the face, the hands, the knees, and the feet. Now, I was saying that it affects the skins and nerves, causing disfigurement in the limbs. Now, just to give you guys an example of how serious leprosy is in the whole globe, in the year 2000, an estimate of 740,000 cases have been reported. Now, research is still uncertain where this disease has come from, but there is still groundbreaking history behind all of this. Now, in 1550 BC, a document was made named the Egyptian Papyrus document, and this document is in biblical text format, and it describes about information about biology to teachings and instructions. Later on, 600 BC, also known as before Christ, there was a document made in Indian writings. And this document talked about the relationship between leprosy and how it affected people. And then in 62 BC was the time when leprosy was intact with the people at that time. It all started when Alexander the Great won the war against Pompey's troops. And these Pompey's troops carried the disease, which is now called leprosy. And as they crossed the western side of Europe, they infected rulers, and these rulers were contaminated. And soon, later on, they didn't think of this as a disease, but rather something else. And these people had to wear special clothing, and including ring bells and walk on distinct roads, in order to caution others that they're near. Now, instead of a disease, they thought of this a punishment from the gods, also known as sins. As you can see here, there's a man begging a priest here to beg the gods that he is full of sorrow and that he'll never do any bad things ever in his life. Now, as soon as this disease stopped in Europe, this affected the enlightenment of improving living conditions and better nutrition. Now, the reason why this stopped was for when the New World was discovered. And when the New World was discovered, right here, they made these specific villages made just for them. And they sent them there to live, rot, and die. Now, the only treatment they had, as I explained earlier, they had to beg holy men and priests in order to let them know that they are full of sorrow. But this all changed when the new medical development was in the 19th century. By the name of Dr. Hansen discovered the cause of leprosy in 1873. And the cause of leprosy was from these bacillus organisms, as shown right here, which is now specifically called Mycobacterium leprae. And this is now called Hansen's disease. Now, this was worked on until the early 20th century. That was when dapsone was created. Dapsone was created from this chalmuger nut. And the characteristics of this nut is that it has round edges and it has a taint yellow color to it. And it comes from a 50 to 60 feet tall brown tree. And the side effects on on this drug was stomach irritation and accumulation of calcium. And this drug was extremely painful for, at that time, the syringe and its needle was very thick and not as narrow as we have it today. Now, this drug can only last a month, meaning that if too many of these drugs are taken throughout the year, then it may result that the Mycobacterium leprae will become resistant to this drug, which is why it is best to receive this drug as soon as possible, which may possibly not be possible due to the slow symptoms to occur, which I'll be explaining later on. Now, in 1981, the U.S. Public Health Service has recommended a multi-drug therapy, the abbreviation MDT. And MDT was a mix of 3 drugs: clofazimine, rifampicin, and dapsone. In 1995, the World Health Organization, the abbreviation of WHO, provided these 3 drugs. And these drugs can only last 6 months, and it was best to take early as possible. But I said earlier that it is not possible due to the slow symptoms to occur. Now, these early signs and symptoms are very subtle and will take years till visual. That's why there are signs when symptoms progress, also known as progression symptom signs. Now, the first progression symptom signs in the beginning you'll feel numbness and the loss of temperature sensation. And continue progressing, you'll feel the loss of touch, pain, and deep pressure, resulting to eye damage and finally body disfigurement in the limbs and cool areas. Now, right now in the present time, it is currently an easy disease to treat, where they give proper care to the local communities. And in 1985, 500,000 to 700,000 cases have been reported to WHO, and then in 2009, here's about reported to WHO at the beginning of January 2009. As you can see, in South America, there has been above 20,000 in population that has been infected. Later on, in 2008, an estimate of 249,000 cases have been reported to WHO, and specifically going into the countries from 2008 and then the past 5 years. And as you can see in India, the population is more infected. Now, for the past 20 years, 14 million patients have been cured around 120 countries. And the current infected countries are Africa, Asia, and Latin America, which may result that this, as you can see, the progression of the years, the decreased population of infected people. And this may result that leprosy may vanish from human history. But before they could do that, instead of humans, they had to make sure that any other species didn't have this disease. That's why they tested on animals that have a cool body temperature. And these are the results they had. There were chimpanzees, mangabey monkeys, and 9 banded armadillos. Now, that's when they did a current experiment in 2011 by an 81-year-old John Abbey dermatologist. Now, why did they do an experiment on these armadillos? Well, because their body temperature was 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, which makes it the perfect powerhouse for the Mycobacterium leprae to reproduce and wait until a victim handles or eats this specific armadillo. Now, this will not prove that these armadillos will transfer this bacteria to humans, but it will be the strongest evidence provided. Now, the materials they used were 50 patients and 33 wild armadillos. And the procedure was they took blood samples from each of these infected patients and wild armadillos, and they compared and we observed the results. Now, the results were that 25 out of 55 individuals and 28 out of 33 wild animals observed and have identical strains of Mycobacterium leprae. And this, in result, 8 out of 25 individuals have reported that they had contact with these armadillos. And this may result that 1 out of 10,000 people will be infected worldwide. And with the side note that the armadillo population in the U.S. is to 30 to 50 million. Now, this will possibly possibly increase the rate of leprosy by 15%, meaning because the armadillos spread to the north and east regions of the United States due to the lack of predators. Now this may upset the balance for leprosy to be extinguished, but in conclusion, leprosy has improved developments of science, immunology, and biology. This historical disease has been a huge project throughout the biblical times, the past time, modernity, and present time. And there's always new discoveries from the past to present, meaning from the next years, new discoveries and new possibilities will carry from the next years. And possibly, there will be no harm to humans from diseases from the past. Now, just remember, when you get a mosquito bite, at least be grateful that you didn't get any of these mosquito bites. I will now open the floor to any questions or comments.
On the slide, well, the symptoms, it said cool areas.
I said in the beginning, it's in the face, the hands, the feet, and the knees.
Just be clear, are you saying that leprosy was caused by mosquito bites?
As you can see here, these look like mosquito bites, but looks more serious. But I was just comparing that how people, complain about getting a mosquito bite, that they shouldn't be complaining about getting one of these.
Did you read the areas of
It's the face, the hands, the knees, and excuse me?
Yeah.
The map
Like you listed.
Okay, so what's your question? Did I answer?
I was just looking at you.
Anyone else? Andrew?
Is the woman in slide 2 the same one as the one in slide 3?
Yes, it is. Before and then after. Before, after.
Thank you, Mr. Lozano. Any questions?
Alonzo.
Please switch.
Thank you, Mr. Lozano. I have a question about the research that was done on the armadillos. Now, were the armadillos injected with a strain of leprosy?
They took blood samples from them and compared it to each infected patient. And it was identified that 8 out of 33 armadillos had these identical strains compared to the infected patients.
So, identical strain meaning it would cause leprosy?
Well, specifically these, Microbacterium leprae looks like this. And so the strains they had, each one of them, were kind of like atypical, abnormal, because it looked somewhat like this, but not similar. Which, I don't know how much to explain.
So, this researcher randomly rounded up 33 armadillos from the wild. And of the 33 armadillos, 8 of them had this strain.
Yeah,
that
they were
correct?
identical to, I believe,
No, 28 of the armadillos
28, okay.
had this strain.
28 out of 33 are wild armadillos, and 25 out of 55 had identical strains from each other.
Okay, so a large portion, if we take this sample to be representative of the population, the 33 is representative of the armadillo population, and say a significant portion of the armadillo population has this bacteria. Would you agree with that?
This one.
So, I guess my concern is the significance of this study. If it seems like it hasn't been proven if the strain can be transferred from armadillos to humans.
Yes.
So, is research being done to see if that?
Yes, there's still current research being done. And, but this provides the strongest evidence that armadillos do transfer to, this bacteria to humans. And also, I consider this a limitation because they used 55 individuals and 33 random wild armadillos. And what I was thinking is that they could have used more, around 200, at least 100 at least, and to get more specific and better results. Andrew.
Do you know how the armadillos would have transferred it to humans?
As I said, you can either have direct contact with them, handle them, or eat them. Is there?
Very interesting, Mr. Lozano. On your historical slide, you had biblical times continuing, and you went into the Enlightenment and the discovery of the New World. Were you attempting to link the two as, what was your purpose in linking the two? So in this slide we have two very distinct periods separated by about 1,000 years. Did your research cover any medieval thoughts on the matter, since biblical times are separated from the Enlightenment by about 1,000 years, and we'll call this the medieval era?
Well, in this picture, it describes humans that were infected with leprosy and how they begged the holy man that they were sorrow to the gods, and so they could take this curse out of them. And in this picture, it shows when the New World was found and how they shipped them to these villages so they can die.
But did your research cover any of the medical treatments that were developed during the medieval or / Renaissance era?
Well, this PowerPoint is mostly on the history of leprosy.
Mhm.
That's why I started on the past biblical times
Mhm.
and then up to present. And during that time was the medical